South Africa is a movie. We live in a drama. It's a series. Every day you will be shocked by something new.
Some will argue and say, but the number of illegal foreigners in our public schools is less than the number of South Africans. Yes. What will people can't do? Do you want the illegal foreigners to be more than South Africans? No, people. Obviously, South Africans should be more than the illegal foreigners. In fact, there should be South Africans and documented foreigners inside our schools. I don't even know why I'm saying there should be illegal foreigners. There shouldn't be illegal foreigners in our school. No. There should be South Africans and documented foreigners inside our schools. People with proper documents to receive the education, not the children of undocumented foreigners. Well, we know that children are not to be blamed here. They are not to be blamed. What we can blame is our porous borders, because these people from outside come with their kids to South Africa. And then when they are here in South Africa, they must receive the education because they are kids. We must show Ubuntu and say, no, we can't deny kids healthcare and education, but they are kids. Yes, it makes sense to say, but they are kids. People, if we use our emotions to run South Africa, we are going to collapse this nation. I'm telling you, we are going to collapse this nation. Because if we allow people to come with their kids from outside and place their kids inside our schools, more and more of them are going to come. And then this is just going to be a banana republic, people. It's going to be a banana republic, I'm telling you. What we need to do is to make sure that South Africans are prioritized in our schools, in our clinics, everywhere. And we need to make sure that if a foreigner is receiving an education here in South Africa, he has all the proper documents to receive that education. This thing of people taking their kids from their countries without any documents, they come to South Africa and we must place them in our schools. No, that nonsense needs to stop. And Operation Dudula is trying to do exactly that.
Operation Dudula has threatened that foreign learners with no identity documents will not be allowed to enter schools next year. But the chairpersons responsible for the social cluster have warned that no disruption will be tolerated, especially the targeting of foreign learners.
We therefore condemned with the utmost contempt those forms of threats and actions. If you are identifying yourselves as a civil organization, you must be able to understand your footing so that you do not violate the rights that have been enshrined in the Constitution.
Also know that every time there's another fire, this and that, most of those citizens lose their identifications, their IDs and everything. So you'd also be saying to other South Africans, you are legitimately South Africans, you don't have access into this facility unless and until you produce an ID. It doesn't matter your ID was burnt in the fire last night or last week.
Another concern raised involves 2 out of the 8 regulations of the Bella Act that have recently been gazetted. The Department of Basic Education has missed a June deadline to have all regulations published.
The regulations refer to considering the demographics and education needs of the surrounding community. In the Act, however, the responsibility for admission policy is actually given to the head of department. And we believe that that is not in line with the essence or the principles of the Act, and that potentially reinforces local demographic homogeneity, contrary to the type of inclusivity that the Act intended.
Now, Section 29 of our Constitution guarantees South African citizens the right to basic education. Now, when public schools are overcrowded by undocumented children, leaving South African citizens or South African children without any placement in our public schools, that is a direct violation to the rights of South Africans. And I don't care who says what. Because the people who are saying Operation Dudula shouldn't do what it wants to do next year by preventing undocumented children from accessing our public schools is wrong. They seem to not realize that there are South African children out there who are not receiving their right to education here in South Africa. We are not talking about something that we've made up in our heads. If you can visit our townships right now, you are going to find 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds who didn't go to school for the whole of this year. And when you ask their parents, why isn't this child in school? They will tell you that we didn't get the space. And the other schools that had space are far away. We can't afford the transport. Now imagine a 12-year-old now, a South African, can't receive education because the schools are overcrowded by undocumented foreigners. Is that fair to South Africans? Why do we want to look good out there when our people are suffering? We want people to look at South Africa and say South Africans are giving education to everyone. South Africans are good people with Ubuntu. When the reality is our children are suffering. They can't get the placements because spaces are occupied by undocumented foreigners who bribe for these positions, some of them. This is nonsense, people. It's really nonsense. You know, I would understand if the people who were saying Operation Dudula is wrong were speaking inside a country where every South African citizen is receiving free education, and then there are spaces to accommodate illegal foreigners. There I would understand, because everyone in South Africa is receiving the education and there are extra spaces, you know. Then we can say, no, we can admit illegal foreigners, these kids of illegal foreigners, we can admit them. That makes sense. That makes sense, because we would be helping as South Africans and we wouldn't be helping at our expense, you know, because we are taken care of and there is extra space. Then we can help. But how is it possible for us to want to take care of other people from outside when we can't even take care of our kids here in South Africa? Does that even make sense, people? It doesn't make sense. And some people tend to forget that overcrowding in our schools is the reason why our quality of education is so low. You know, if you've been to public schools or you've attended a public school, I'm speaking from experience, so I don't want people to say maybe I'm talking about something that I don't know. I'm speaking from experience, and I can tell you that not even once have I been inside a class with less than 50 people inside. Not even once. From primary all the way to high school, our classes used to be 65 learners in one classroom. If we say the class has few learners inside the class, maybe there were 40 learners. Those are few learners. We say those are few. You wouldn't find a classroom with less than 40 learners. Most of the classrooms you would find 65 learners. Sometimes you would have to sit in a desk, sit 3 of us in a desk. Oh, what kind of nonsense is that? And then how can the quality of education be high inside overcrowded classrooms? Because the teacher to student ratio doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. How do you expect one teacher to control over 65 students? And you know how learners are. How do you expect one teacher to give a proper teaching lesson, teaching 65 learners? Others are busy, they're making noise. You can't control those people. When you try to speak to these ones in this corner, those ones are starting there. That was our reality throughout my whole school experience. The attention, you can see that the learners can't pay attention to the teacher inside of the classroom because of the overcrowding. And this is something that people don't speak about. I've never heard anyone speak about this. Maybe if you've heard some people speak about this, you are lucky. But I've never heard anyone speak about this, that the fact is kids in public schools perform badly. Some of them perform badly because of the state of our classrooms, the overcrowding. Sometimes it's very, very hard to focus. Even if you wanted to, as a learner, maybe you are serious, you are in a public school, you are serious, you really want to focus and listen to a teacher when he's busy teaching there. You can't do that because of the chaos that is happening inside the class. Now, the teacher must stop the lesson and he must focus on reprimanding this group. When this group is reprimanded, these ones are starting an hour that was dedicated to a maths period, for example, has turned into a chaotic hour. The teacher only taught for about 10 minutes. That was our reality. And we know that some learners, we have learners who are just crazy. They are just like that. They are just like that. They just like to cause chaos. Those learners, when they see that the classroom is overcrowded, it gives them the power to do their strange things inside this class. Because they can see that the teacher won't be able to reprimand all of us here in the class. So as a way for us to make sure that we waste time because we don't want to learn, those types of learners who didn't want to learn in school, they were there just to disturb other learners. They were now feeling powerful because when they are busy causing chaos here, an hour goes by and the period is over. We didn't learn anything. Now tell me, how will the quality of education be high inside those types of classrooms? People, let's think about these things whenever we want to fight against Operation Dudula, because Operation Dudula is trying to help us as South Africans so that our kids, our children don't have to go through the same reality. They really don't have to go through the same reality because we don't know where life will take us. Who knows? Maybe my kids are going to attend public schools, even though that's not what I want for them because it's something that I experienced and I don't want them to experience too. But then who knows, maybe they will go to public schools and I don't want them to be inside classrooms of 65 kids like I was. No. Look at the private schools. You will never find a classroom of over 30 learners. A classroom, at most you'll find 15 learners inside the classroom, or 10 or 20, maybe if they are main, we can say 20 learners. You see, the teacher to student ratio makes sense. It's easy for you to control 10 learners. I will never be disturbed by 10 learners as a teacher. But 65 learners, think about it, people. Think about it. You get what I mean? So these are some of the things that we need to take into consideration when we want to fight against Operation Dudula. And another thing that pisses me off, that really pisses me off about this situation is that, public schools people are funded by the taxpayers' money. And the people who pay tax here in South Africa are not illegal foreigners. No. This thing of tax and service delivery is a two-way street, people. We pay tax as the South African citizens so that the state can in turn give us service delivery as the South African citizens. You get what I mean? When I pay tax, I expect the government to deliver services to me. That is the whole reason why I pay tax. Now tell me, if I can't get access to the services that are delivered by the government because of people who don't pay tax, is that thing fair? Is it fair for us as South Africans? It's not. Pella, these public schools is not like they are funded by the government. They are funded by the taxpayers' money. Even the government is funded by the taxpayers' money. You get what I mean? So, I'm supposed to pay the tax, but my kid can't be placed inside a public school. But I pay tax. Someone out there is not paying tax. He came to South Africa illegally with fake documents, some without any documents. Yet his child is receiving the education. This person doesn't pay any tax. I pay tax. My child doesn't receive any education. That is the reality that we are going through here in South Africa. And this one really, really pisses me off. It really pisses me off, people. And the people who are always against Operation Dudula are these South Africans who don't pay tax. I'm telling you. They don't know how hard it is to look at a portion of your salary go to someone out there that you don't even know. They don't know that pain. They don't pay any tax. So when they are out here fighting against Operation Dudula, they are fighting about something that they don't know. But I can tell you that the people who actually pay tax, who actually know how hard it is to pay tax, will never want service delivery to go to illegal foreigners or undocumented foreigners or even their kids. They will never, because they understand that I pay tax so that I can get service delivery. Now, if I don't get service delivery and service delivery is directed towards illegal foreigners, why do I pay tax? You see, South African children are being left behind in the global economy. Because if this thing continues and we allow undocumented children to be in our schools, it simply means many South Africans will be left uneducated. And a nation, what is a nation of uneducated people? And maybe that's their goal. Maybe it's a way for them to try and collapse South Africa. Maybe they want our kids to be uneducated so that foreign kids can be educated and come take up positions here in South Africa. That is why when you're looking at some positions out there that should go to South Africans right now are occupied by illegal foreigners. If South Africans were prioritized in all of our schools and there were no illegal foreigners, most of these positions that are occupied by illegal foreigners wouldn't be occupied by illegal foreigners. Look at, for example, the head of research there by the South African Human Rights Commission. The head of research there, that man is not a South African. Is not a South African. Yet he's the head of research in South African Human Rights Commission. You will wonder whether there's no South African who can be the head of a South African Human Rights Commission. You will wonder, but you will never get the answers to those questions. And maybe it's their goal for foreigners to be heads of all our departments and our organizations here in South Africa. And for them to do that, they first have to place these kids inside our public schools so that they can receive education here in South Africa, and displace South African kids so that they cannot get the education and end up being adults who don't know anything. And the people who actually had the education is illegal foreigners. Now we must take these foreigners and put them in these positions because they are the ones who are educated. Maybe it's their plan, people. Maybe it's their plan. Some will argue and say, but the number of illegal foreigners in our public schools is less than the number of South Africans. Yes. What will people? Do you want the illegal foreigners to be more than South Africans? No, people. Obviously, South Africans should be more than the illegal foreigners. In fact, there should be South Africans and documented foreigners inside our schools. I don't even know why I'm saying there should be illegal foreigners. There shouldn't be illegal foreigners in our school. No. There should be South Africans and documented foreigners inside our schools. People with proper documents to receive the education, not the children of undocumented foreigners. Well, we know that children are not to be blamed here. They are not to be blamed. What we can blame is our porous borders. Because these people from outside come with their kids to South Africa. And then when they are here in South Africa, they must receive the education because they are kids. We must show Ubuntu and say, no, we can't deny kids healthcare and education, but they are kids. Yes, it makes sense to say, but they are kids. People, if we use our emotions to run South Africa, we are going to collapse this nation. I'm telling you, we are going to collapse this nation. Because if we allow people to come with their kids from outside and place their kids inside our schools, more and more of them are going to come. And then this is just going to be a banana republic, people. It's going to be a banana republic, I'm telling you. What we need to do is to make sure that South Africans are prioritized in our schools, in our clinics, everywhere. And we need to make sure that if a foreigner is receiving an education here in South Africa, he has all the proper documents to receive that education. This thing of people taking their kids from their countries without any documents, they come to South Africa and we must place them in our schools. No, that nonsense needs to stop. And Operation Dudula is trying to do exactly that. So tell me on the comment section down below, what do you think about this whole situation that I had in this episode of The Spotlight. But then if you just enjoyed this video or you learned something new, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. My name is Emmanuel and this is Mzansi Versity, the place where we transform lives through knowledge and information. Let's meet again on another video.